Okay, we got some real interesting themes and things going on with the characters in episode 5. So let's just get into it. But first, leave a comment on your favorite part of this episode. We start off the episode with Talk just scrambling, trying to find the gun that Tim has. And when he does finally find and confront him, he literally just lets him walk out with the gun. Like, he truly is the worst security guard ever. I'm gonna need some type of redeeming quality for him, because even though he's a nice guy, it's to the point where he's like too nice. He's not doing his job. He's like way too sprung over Mook. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, something, he has to get some courage for real. But when we see Tim and his family at the table, like, Victoria has just the most epic scene talking to her daughter right here.
And like immerse myself so I can really understand Buddhism and develop my spirituality.
But you're not a Buddhist.
Yes, I am, Mom.
Honey, you're not from China.
What does that have to do with anything?
You can be interested in this stuff, but you could never really be it. We're from an entirely different world.
Okay, well, you call yourself a Christian, but you weren't born in Bethlehem.
Well, everyone I know is a Christian. My parents were Christians. Your parents are Christian.
See, here's where this conversation takes on some nuance. Because although Victoria is being extremely ignorant, at the same time, the undertone of Piper trying to essentially culturally appropriate in a way is valid. Like, it is. And this is kind of a theme that's throughout this episode of, and not even just this episode, this season, of indigenous people, teachings, religion, spiritual beliefs. And although Piper can be a Buddhist, I feel like the way that she's going about it definitely comes from a place of privilege. If this meditation retreat doesn't work out for her, she could just fly home and go be rich again. But what's interesting is that's not going to be the case. They don't have money anymore. So I wonder if she'll still want to just take a year off basically and meditate. We'll see what happens.
There's sex cults, Piper. Nexium. You could end up a concubine to some weird guru with a bunch of sister wives, getting branded and all sorts of... Don't look at me like I'm crazy. It happens all the time. Shelter girls like you are constantly getting brainwashed and turned out.
Okay.
Once again, it's like, yes, Victoria's ignorant, but she's speaking the truth. Like, those type of cults do seek out the rich, sheltered girls. That's literally, like, I've seen the documentary on the cult she's talking about, Nixium, which is also on Max. Y'all should check it out. It's a good documentary. But yeah, she like has this level of telling the truth and then also being extremely ignorant at the same time. It's an interesting dichotomy.
What are people gonna say?
I won't worry about that.
You can do everything right, but still, at any moment, something can come along and upend everything.
Victoria is just hitting, dropping all the truth bombs this episode for real. Just saying exactly what he's going through.
What are you doing?
Write a note, something I gotta remember to do.
Can't you sleep?
Obviously not.
You haven't been acting like yourself, Tim. What's going on?
To understand the expectation. No, give me an idea. The expectations on me from day one.
He's cracking under the pressure. Makes sense. He's about to go through not such a good time. But what's interesting is I want to know if Saxon and the rest of the kids feel that level of pressure. Like, if he's passed it on to his kids. It sounds like he got it from his dad or maybe even his grandpa. Like, it's kind of something that has been passed through the generations. I kind of feel that way about the kids, but not too sure. Piper seems to have, averted that. Saxon seems to want to live up to him. And I don't really know about Lochy yet. Can't get a hold on him. But talking about Saxon and Lochy, y'all. Now, I don't remember if I said it in my video or just talking to my wife or on my Discord or where in the comments. I don't know, but I did make a comment saying that I hope we don't get a Game of Thrones-esque type scene between Lochy and Saxon, if you know what I mean. And that's exactly what happened. I saw that coming ever since that episode where Lochy was just staring at Saxon when he woke up. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I was not expecting Saxon to be the one to be taken advantage of. Wasn't seeing that at all. Now, I want to know how this is going to affect him, or if he's even going to remember it the next day and how it's going to play out, because his character definitely is the one that feels like he would take advantage of somebody. Like, he doesn't have boundaries and he's just willing to break boundaries. And something I did say came full circle in a way, but it was reverse of what I thought. So in this scene here where they're peer pressuring Saxon to take the drugs. I thought Saxon was going to be doing that to them eventually. And that's also why I feel like this episode is a little genius, because they completely subverted expectations where they were building it up so that it seemed like Saxon would do something, but everything we were worried about Saxon doing to somebody else happened to him in this episode. So they did it, completely reversed it. So unfortunately, in the first video I did for this series, I was like, I really hope Lochy does not turn into Saxon. He ended up doing what I was worried Saxon was going to do. Damn shame. So I've seen critiques about this show being slow. What are your thoughts on that? Leave a comment. I wonder how y'all are liking the pacing of this. And talking about doing drugs, I was almost certain that they drugged the girl, like there was drugs in these drinks. I was almost certain about that. Luckily, that's not what happened. But betrayal still happened because she ended up hooking up with her friend's guy that she was trying to get with. She is just vindictive. She's a true mean girl. True mean girl. Like, wow. Like these three ladies are having the absolute worst vacation of all time. My goodness. Like, I don't even know why they went on vacation with each other. They hate each other. Then we have this long montage going between both groups and they're partying, and this just gives me escapism. It seems like throughout this whole show there's been this tension building and building and building that just led to everyone trying to have some form of escape this episode, whether that was through partying, drinking, unfortunately what Tim was about to do, Rick leaving literally and going to Bangkok and like trying to have his revenge. So everyone was like trying to leave and get out of the position they were in. Even with Chelsea, she ended up giving up on Rick and joining in on what the rest of the group was doing. So yeah, this was just about escape this episode, 100%. And talking about Rick, this conversation was wild. Please take a second to go ahead and join the Foster fam either through Patreon or YouTube members so you could get exclusive videos and also join a community where we break down all of these shows together.
I'd look in her eyes while some guy was fucking me, and I'd think, I am her, and I'm fucking me.
That scene was wild, but it was actually really profound. Let me tell you why. So once again, it brings up this theme of religion. So he's talking about how he's turned into a Buddhist to get over his addiction, which for him is a sexual addiction, right? But what's really interesting about that line of dialogue that he was talking about is that's kind of the cycle of addiction, where it's this cycle where you're repeatedly screwing yourself over, right? You kind of put yourself in this cage and you're just screwing yourself over and over and over and over again. So the idea of Buddhism is to follow it to be able to end suffering. And I think that gets him out of his addiction, which once again, I was just talking about, this whole thing is about escape. And so that was the way he was able to escape his pain. Conversely, with Rick, he's not been able to give up his addiction, which is revenge, right? It's not so much addiction, it's just something he's obsessed about. He can't get over it. And so he has someone over here telling him this super wild personal story that he was able to overcome, where on Rick's side it's the opposite, where he hasn't been able to overcome anything. And that's why this scene was so genius, just being able to have this really awkward, hilarious moment that when you take a second to think about it is really profound to the characters. Genius writing. I have to say that I'm sad with what the show is doing with Belinda. She's really going nowhere as a character. Even in this moment, that's supposed to be this full circle moment of her finally going forward and being in this relationship. It's not even really a full circle moment for her character, or a moment that really reveals anything or changes anything or does anything. Like, we know she's been shy and reserved and may have some self-esteem issues from what she's been saying and doing, but this wasn't like her overcoming that. It's almost like she stumbled into it, right? And so I don't know, like, her character's literally just been essentially knowing Greg, right, and trying to figure that all out, and then the romance between her and Pornchai, which, okay, they just finally got together, but it didn't really do anything for me. I'm assuming her character is going to have a gigantic role with whatever ends up happening with Greg. Hers is just progressing so slowly. But I will say, I do think there's some foreshadowing in this scene for something that's going to happen with her and Zion later. So what led her to ask Pornchai to stay over was she felt like she needed protection because of this moment right here, where he moves this dresser and we see a lizard, which, remember, is a callback to like the first time they met each other and there was a lizard in the runway. So this is the second time this has happened, and things always happen in threes, which is funny because Chelsea said that in an earlier episode, things happen in threes. But yeah, I think Zion's going to somehow protect her from a lizard. I don't think it's going to actually be a lizard. I think it's going to be something like an analogy, or a lizard might actually do something with Greg or something like that. I don't know. We're about to see it again, though. We already saw this snake 3 times. We're gonna see this lizard 3 times somehow. So yeah, I just found out that this season is only 8 episodes, so we only got 3 episodes left. I feel like they have a lot to do to be able to bring everything together, because they still have to introduce Zion to the show, and he needs to be there a good amount so that in that climax moment of when we revisit what happened in the first episode, it like means something. I don't know. I feel like they're running out of time here, but we'll see how it all plays out. If you like this video, please sign up for the Foster fam to support the channel either through Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. It allows me to keep making content like this, and I would just greatly appreciate it. Until next week, I'll see y'all.